Tim Blackman in Japan, on a mission any parent would dread. Searching for his attractive daughter Lucie, who vanished while working as a hostess in a Tokyo club. Today, Japanese police are still questioning a property tycoon about her disappearance. The suspect is believed to be obsessed by Western girls. They've combed every inch of his home, dug up the gardens of one of his 20 properties, and searched the shoreline near his seaside apartment. Yet Tim Blackman is still not certain of his daughter's fate. We've been with him on his search to find Lucie. We've been filming secretly as he's learnt about the closed world of hostess clubs, where some Western girls take enormous risks entertaining Japanese businessmen. And come face to face with the managers of the club where Lucie worked.
When I was at home on the Isle of Wight, it was 5 o'clock in the afternoon. I think we were having a barbecue in the garden, and the phone rang and somebody shouted at the house, "Oh, it's Sophie's on the phone." And she said, "Dad, I've got some really bad news." I said, "Oh, what's that?" And she said, "Well, Lucie's gone missing in Tokyo." I was absolutely stunned. I just can't describe it. It's as if your entire functions just stop for a while.
Sophie, who is 2 years younger than her sister Lucie, flew to Japan the following morning. Her father started making inquiries by phone. The picture that emerged was disturbingly vague. Lucie had been working as a hostess in a Tokyo club for 8 weeks when she mysteriously disappeared on Saturday, July the 1st. She supposedly met a customer on her day off, but no one knows who or even where. Days after Lucie disappeared, Tim Blackman arrived in Japan.
In Greater Tokyo, there's 27 million people living in an area the size virtually of the Isle of Wight, where I live, which has got 110,000 population. And it's just completely mind-boggling. And I really felt pretty shattered at the prospect of what we had to do.
Until Tim arrived, the Japanese police treated Lucie's disappearance as a minor matter for the local police. Tim was determined to change this by turning it into a worldwide media story.
I could feel that my role was going to be to start building this into the sort of situation which just meant that Lucie just wasn't going to fade away in the night.
Within days, his strategy worked. 45 police officers were assigned to the case. Lucie's home in Sevenoaks in Kent. More than 350 cards show just how much she's missed by family and friends. Lucie lived here with her mother Jane, who's been divorced from Tim for 6 years.
It's so painful because I just miss her. Everyone always said about Lucie that she lit up a room, and she really did. She had this tremendous ability to light up a room, and she was very loved. And, you know, how do you replace that? You don't. I'm just determined that I'm going to find her.
Blackman's inquiries centre on Roppongi, one of Tokyo's red light districts where Lucie worked in a club called Casablanca. In Roppongi, almost everything is on offer. Intimate massage parlours, sadomasochism, young girls. But the main attraction for the Japanese businessman is the beautiful Western girls, who find jobs in the clubs, bars and restaurants. Over the next few weeks, Tim will have to ask questions about his daughter's behaviour that no father wants to have to ask. In May this year, he was surprised when Lucie gave up her job as an air steward with British Airways and went to Japan with her closest friend, Louise. They wanted to earn money while deciding on new careers. Lucie phoned him from Japan. She said they both planned to work at a hostess club.
She said, you know, we can get hostess work and it pays extremely well. And I sort of said, well, what's hostess work? And she said, well, it's really a modern day geisha arrangement, and you just work in a club and you just sort of talk to the businessmen and light their cigarettes and get a drink and you get paid. And I understood it fairly clearly from that.
As a hostess, Cindy has made about £5,000 in 10 weeks to help pay for her graduate studies.
I had lived in Japan for 3 years and I was teaching, and I knew women who were hostessing, so I just came back for a short time with one objective: to make some money and to see Japan again. Money was number one. There's really no other reason to do it. That's why all the women do it. It's not because they really enjoy being hostesses. It's because they get paid well to sit and talk to men in bars.
Cindy, who's about to return to the States, is one of only a handful of hostesses willing to talk openly about their job. Ever since they started in Tokyo about 15 years ago during the mid-80s boom, hostess clubs have been part of a strangely concealed world. A world we have explored for the first time by filming with a hidden camera. For these clubs, any publicity is bad publicity. The disappearance of Lucie Blackman has cast an unwelcome spotlight on them. Most operate outside the law. The girls are working illegally. They know, managements know, and the Japanese government knows.
Do you have a working visa?
No.
We're all on tourist visas generally.
So the immigration could close these clubs tomorrow?
They could at least put the girls on a plane immediately.
The laws aren't heavily enforced.
Why do you think that is?
Japanese people spend a lot of money on entertainment. It's a big business.
Some hostess clubs, like Casablanca, where Lucie and her friend Louise became hostesses in early May, are little more than small bare rooms, where hostesses entertain customers by chatting, drinking, dancing and singing karaoke. Other clubs, like Private Eyes, employ intimate lap dancers and hostesses. Yet others, like One-Eyed Jack's, are large gentlemen's clubs that combine hostessing with near-nude cabarets. At one club, Cindy was given a list of rules for hostesses.
The important points: number one, look. Beautiful, sexy, low-cut dresses. Beautiful makeup, red lipstick, and strong eyebrows. I'm supposed to make fun and interesting conversation. Keep drinking, 3 glasses or more in 1 hour. It does not have to be alcohol.
Obviously, they're going to stay longer if you get them drunk, so you're continually pouring whiskey into their glasses, keeping them very full, and singing and sometimes being really silly and dancing with them.
At Casablanca, where customers pay £100 for the first hour, drinks are free. At One-Eyed Jack's, where Cindy worked, the entrance fee is £20. But drinks are expensive, and hostesses are paid to tempt customers to keep drinking.
For every drink I have, I get 500 yen, just about $5 US. And most women tend to have about 5 drinks an hour. So, or it averages between maybe 15 and 20 drinks a night. The drinks are really small. It's really easy to drink them fast. And we continually ask customers if we can have another drink in order to make more money.
When Cindy started at One-Eyed Jack's, she was told what customers want.
They come to look at attractive foreign women. And my training lasted all of 10 minutes. But the first thing I was told, the first rule, is to never tell the customers that you have a boyfriend. That's the big secret, because there is, supposedly, some kind of illusion or fantasy in the customer's mind that maybe one day this foreign woman could be their girlfriend, sure.
The most popular hostesses at all the clubs tend to have one feature in common.
It's basically what they don't have, Japanese have dark eyes and dark hair. And so anything that isn't dark is going to be exotic in a way. So blonde hair, blue eyes.
Men and even women would stop Lucie in the street just to touch her striking blonde hair. Lucie left the small room which she shared in this rundown house with her friend Louise on the afternoon of Saturday, July the 1st. It's thought she was due to meet a man, probably a customer at Casablanca, who had promised to buy her presents, including a mobile phone.
Apparently Lucie left at 3:30 and phoned Louise for the first time at 5 o'clock to say that she was with a customer and they were going to go to the coast for the afternoon. And Louise, cottoning on to the situation, said, are you okay? Kind of yes or no answer. So Lucie could be monosyllabic, so the person she was with didn't know if Lucie was indicating she was in danger, and Lucie said she was fine. She didn't seem to be in any sort of stressful situation at all. The next time Louise heard from Lucie was at 7 o'clock in the evening, and said she was on her way back and she'd be back within an hour. And Lucie said to Louise, go and get ready, put your makeup on because we're going out when I get back, which indicated about 8 o'clock, which she never arrived for.
Every aspect of this story is mysterious. 2 months have passed, yet the large police team seems to have no idea who drove the car.
And the other thing that I find difficult to understand is that the Japanese police cannot trace these phone calls that Lucie allegedly made on the Saturday because it's against the privacy laws. And they can't look at CCTV cameras of the roads where Lucie could have been driven to the coast because that's against privacy laws. They're only there for speeding cars. Whereas in England, the first thing you would do is find out what's going on with the phones.
We discover Japanese phone companies could trace calls to Louise's phone by checking data for the entire national network. The Blackman family stressed to the police the urgency of tracing the calls, but are told this requires a court order which has been refused. Louise is the crucial police witness. She's the last person to have talked to Lucie and often entertained the same customers in Casablanca. Distraught, her best friend has vanished. Louise has spent weeks in Japan helping the police. They have instructed her not to talk to the Blackman family or the press. But Tim talked to her briefly when he first arrived.
I said, surely, Louise, you must know something. You must know who this guy is, or Lucy must have mentioned something. Honestly, Tim, if I knew anything, you know, I just don't know. I just don't know. No idea. I just don't know anything, was the answer I would get.
I know that Lucy would not go in a car with a stranger because she used to always laugh whenever she went out. She'd say, don't worry, I'm not going in any strange men's cars, and I'm not going to eat sweeties. And she just was not that type of person. She's too sensible, too sensible.
Yet sensible Western girls do behave differently while working as hostesses. They learn to use all their feminine charms to persuade customers to part with their cash.
I'll never behave like this at home, ever. No way. I just think if they want to spend the money and throw it away, go for it. I think I've got no respect for them. Sometimes I do kind of feel a bit sorry for some of them, but I was like, if you want to waste your money, right, I'll help you throw it away. I just so past caring. But then I look at myself and I think, what kind of a person have I turned into?
Money has lured the girls to Japan, and that's what keeps them here. They can earn between £2,000 and £5,000 a month, all paid in cash.
Some of them earn very good money.
What do you have to do to earn really good money?
Flirt a lot. Convince your customer that you're interested to be their girlfriend. You have to catch them. It's not that easy. But some of the girls find it very easy. So I think you have to be an actress, basically.
At Casablanca, the hostesses were paid between £15 to £20 an hour, depending on their popularity. The more a girl is requested by a customer and the more she goes out on something called a dohan, the more she earns.
A dohan basically consists of meeting a customer maybe 2 hours before I have to start work. I start work at 9 o'clock. So if I have a dohan, if I have arranged one, I'll usually meet a customer at 7 o'clock in Roppongi. Because it's close to work, it's convenient. We meet at 7, we have dinner, and then I take him into the club with me. And of course he pays for dinner, and he pays to come into the club.
Hostesses at Casablanca, where Lucy worked, had to go on a minimum of 2 dohans each month, but were under pressure to do more.
The girl who earns the most in a month will get an extra bonus. You know, the girl who has the most requests, the most dohans. It's all a system, and it's all written up in the changing room. How many points each girl has got for various different things.
They write it up in the changing room?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you know who's the top, who's the person bringing in the most money?
You know exactly how many points each girl has got for requests or for dohans. So it's in a way, it's competitive. Obviously, if you've got no points next to your name, you're going to be quite scared that you might lose your job.
Actually, yeah, at Jack there's a bonus. If you do 12 dohans in 1 month, you get a $50,000 or $500 bonus.
Hostesses go out with men they scarcely know because of the financial incentive offered by the clubs. But it's the hostesses who take the risks.
Sometimes, on the odd occasion, somebody will just come in off the street. But generally the club knows them, and yeah, you get to know them.
But you don't know them that well, do you?
What's that? The actual customer? No, not really, no. You have their card, you know where their business is, but generally you don't know them personally, no.
And identities could be false on a business card?
Yeah, it might not be your business card. It might be somebody else's.
And so...
It is a high risk. It is high risk, but you have to keep your head, you know. You use your own intuition, you know. You can sometimes tell, looking in their eyes, in their body language, some of the conversation, the things they talk about, whether they would be a danger or not.
So at the end, it really depends on your instinct. Security depends on your instinct. Which is a bit dangerous.
Yeah, yeah.
And on the most important day in Lucie's life, that's all she had to rely on: intuition. Nine weeks have passed since Lucie vanished, but as far as her family know, the police are no closer to finding their daughter, despite ample clues. 2 days after Lucie disappeared, Louise, Lucie's best friend and roommate, received 2 phone calls from an Asian man.
And he said, "We've got Lucie, she's in our newly risen religion, and you won't be seeing her anymore." And Louise said, "Well, can I speak to her?" "No, she's busy studying at the moment and is not feeling well."
2 weeks later, the mystery deepened. A letter, supposedly from Lucie, was sent to the local police station.
And they showed us just simply the bottom part of the second page of the letter. I'm not quite sure how many pages there were, actually, but it was the last page of the letter, and it just said Lucie, and it was signed Lucie. And then it had PS, something along the lines of, "And to my family, you must all go home, me happy," this sort of stuff. And I looked at that and looked at Sophie, and Sophie said, "Well, that's not her signature."
It wasn't Lucie writing it, but it was someone who'd seen her writing.
In his darker moments, Tim has a desperate feeling of hopelessness, but he's determined not simply to wait for the police to finish their inquiries. He wants to trace the kidnapper himself. He set up a hotline for witnesses to come forward and employed Adam, who has an agency to trace missing people.
Some people just don't talk. The reason that is, I just don't know. I think it's pretty stupid. If someone does know something, then they're putting a girl's life here at risk.
I mean, you've been in the Casablanca and you've seen it. It's really a very small little room. You'd think that people would know almost everyone who comes and goes.
Yeah, it's not, like you said, it's very small. For someone to come in and other girls or the management not see someone, it's quite strange, actually. Very strange. So someone definitely must have seen something. Just can't be a ghost, no. And I think it is from the club that the answer lies, yeah.
Most of the time they know who all the customers are. I mean, they're a regular set of customers. If you get a strange face in, definitely the management are going to notice that person because they're thinking, well, you know, hopefully we can get them as a regular customer. it's their business to notice the face.
The owners and managers of Casablanca, where Lucie worked, are refusing to meet Tim, but have been interviewed by the police. Bad publicity has driven away customers, and in early September, the club shuts. On the final night, the girls are sacked, but a few stay behind for a final farewell party. When we start filming openly, we're manhandled out of the door.
I'm going. He's going. We're going now. We're going. No hassle. No hassle.
Adam, who is helping Tim search for Lucie, has been quietly visiting clubs to try and trace Lucie's customers. He's beginning to discover how dangerous the world of hostessing can be, and he's astonished by the blasé attitude of many girls.
The attitudes are just like, oh, you know, big deal, it's not going to happen to me. But I've definitely found out some customers aren't too nice at all. So I think the girls have to seriously think about the dangers that are involved and if it is really worth it, you know? Because they're only here for money. You know, is your life worth money?
One guy, oh my God, he used to try and stick his tongue in Bexy, and I was like, I knew about that from the start, so I was always like this. So then he'd go for my shoulder instead, and I'd be like, oh, I feel so horrible. Make me feel so, like, disgusting.
The strangest people in the world come in there, like twisted-minded people. So, like, keeping them happy all the time and just, like, it's very frustrating, I think. I think it's very difficult.
You know, you might all of a sudden find a hand sliding up your skirt or, you know, something like that. And often they'll try and put their arm around you and try and hug you and maybe slyly put their hand under your breast or something. I mean, it does happen, but it's not too often.
How often?
I suppose I'd say it happens at least once a night.
Yet some hostesses will drink with their customers until the sun rises, if there's money to be had. When the hostess's own club closes, some take their customers to the VIP lounge in the sports cafe. We've found out that here the hostesses have a special arrangement with the management. Unknown to customers, the hostesses receive payment for taking clients to the lounge and for every drink consumed.
Well, the customers pay, I think, about $100 just to go into the room. So if one hostess brings one customer, she gets $6,000, so $60 of that $100. And for every bottle of champagne or bottle of wine or drink that gets ordered, the hostess makes more money. Probably for a bottle of red wine, the hostess gets about $60. So hostesses who go in there and do karaoke drink red wine like fast, really fast. They're definitely taking advantage of people.
Some hostesses even tour bars at 3 in the morning to snare new customers. This isn't because they enjoy the game, but because clubs pay them for the men they attract.
They want you to get the customer infatuated with you, which does quite often happen. And that way they're rolling in it.
They want the customer infatuated?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, they don't care what you go through psychologically. They want the guy in there regularly spending a lot of money.
And do the customers ever become infatuated?
Yeah, they do.
What I mean by good customer is someone that actually falls in love with you, which is a bizarre situation because you're basically, by the system of the clubs that you work in, you're forced to lead customers on. You know, you have points that you have to make, therefore you have to draw customers into the club, which makes customers forget that they're paying for your time and think that you're actually falling in love with them also.
Maybe I've had like 3 or 4 customers in the 10 weeks that I've been working who have said yes, they'd like to sleep with me. And at that point, I usually pretend like I don't understand what they're saying.
I personally wouldn't. I could not. I couldn't.
But what sort of offers have you had?
Well, it's quite a lot of money.
Such as?
I don't know how. I don't know the equivalent in English money. Maybe $1,000 or something. Oh, let's go to a hotel.
A day before Tim is due to fly back to Britain, there's a development. Adam phones him to say he's discovered a new customer struck up a close relationship with Lucie on a Friday night at Casablanca, 8 days before she disappeared.
Okay, how can we get a fix on this guy? Do you think the bar manager will know who it is, or He bought a bottle of brandy, which, I mean, a tot is about 10 quid over here, so what the bottle costs, heaven only knows. And he also bought a bottle of champagne, and this is somebody that Lucie sat with for some considerable time.
Night after night, Tim's right-hand man, Adam, is out seeing people unwilling to talk to the police. His inquiries take him to some of Roppongi's sleazier clubs, as he finds a side of Tokyo which only emerges at night. One lead takes him to clubs specializing in sadomasochistic fetishes, which are unusually popular across Japan. He hears about a small group of S&M fanatics who believe the existing clubs are too tame and are starting their own. It's said one member talked openly about his fantasy of capturing a Western girl to indulge his desires. Tim and Adam are suddenly struck by fear that perhaps the mystery customer, seen drinking brandy and champagne with Lucie 8 days before she disappeared, is the sexual pervert who fantasized about kidnapping a Western girl.
Well, maybe I have to speak to them.
They are frantically emailing photographs of him to Tim's daughter, Sophie. She's going to show it to Louise, Lucie's best friend, who also sat with this customer. If Louise identifies the man in the photograph, the long search may be over.
Hi, Tim. Did you hear any news on the photograph?
Well, we had a phone call back from Sophie a bit earlier this morning to say that she'd been round to Louise's house with the photographs we'd emailed across, but unfortunately Louise doesn't recognise the guy at all, so we'll have to cross him off our list, I think.
Two weeks after he arrived for his second visit, Tim, tired and dejected, prepares to fly home. Before he leaves, he waits to greet his daughter Sophie, who's coming to take his place.
When you go?
People used to seeing parents who have lost a child as broken, crumpled figures have been surprised by Tim's lack of emotion in public.
Yes, I'm beginning to be suspicious about myself, frankly, but it's all down to departmentalism. The whole job that we have to do is so huge, and there is so much to do and so many angles to take and people to talk to, and it really has become a job of work, and it has its own interesting aspects even within that, even though the desperate truth is we're looking for my child and Sophie's sister. I had a bad day when I went down to where Lucie used to live, and I find that is the worst place because I think she would have liked that villagey atmosphere there. I can sit there and I can actually see her walking along there and walking up the road.
You're a big fat squidgy mess.
For the next 2 weeks, the burden will fall on his 20-year-old daughter. one of Sophie's first tasks is heartbreaking.
All Lucie's stuff from the police station, other than documents. Just her clothes and shoes and toiletries and hair dryers and stuff. Not going to even look at it.
Not going to open it?
No, probably not. Though I'll probably get tempted when I can't sleep tonight because it's all annoying me. And I'll have to get up and go through it all. Actually, I might have to go through it because I might need to nick some of her shoes. But no, I'm not too bothered about going through each thing one by one. This is so Lucie. And people think, people think that she's a, hostess, loves it. This is the book she was reading. This is her coming away to Japan to find what it is in life she wants to do. But she hasn't even started it. Probably not. Anyway, too sad. Let's go.
Adam's inquiries into sadomasochistic groups lead him to a Roppongi hotel where rooms are hired out by the hour to people wanting to play out their fantasies. He has been contacted by a terrified Japanese woman who has taken part in deviant sex sessions at this hotel. She's told him that there is a second group of S&M fanatics who also dreamed of kidnapping a Western girl before torturing and killing her.
These two groups have both mentioned getting a Western girl and doing certain things. So yes, they are pretty fascinated by the Western blonde girl, if you could say. Yeah.
And what they plan to do is horrific. I mean, one of the group has spoken of torturing her for a month and possibly terminating.
Yeah, that was the first group. This second group is even more extreme from what I found out today after speaking to this Japanese girl. I just hope it's not the case, really. Yeah, but like I said, there's no evidence that this could be just total, nonsense. As far as it might have nothing to do with Lucie at all, but it's something we've got to follow up.
Say this is the TV screen here.
Sophie forces herself to disregard the stories she's hearing about sadomasochistic groups as she works tirelessly to keep Lucie's story in the news.
And then at the bottom...
Problem is, it's 2 months down the line and people forget and don't actually care anymore. So, need to remind them we're still here. I'm not having a good day. Probably best we don't talk about Lucie.
But Sophie has to steel herself to do more than talk about Lucie. Over 10 weeks have now passed since Lucie vanished, and not one useful witness has come forward. Sophie transforms herself into an image of her sister. She's going to make a dramatic appeal to the public by reconstructing Lucie's last known movements.
We have completely different faces, so it's very different. But, and Lucie always did her makeup outside my room. There's a big mirror. So, yeah, it's quite easy to copy her.
Sophie knows Lucie felt under pressure to go out with the customers, even on her day off. When she turned down one customer, he stopped seeing her. There was also the competition from other hostesses, who regularly went shopping with clients.
I've witnessed girls with diamond ring, diamond pendant, designer clothes, you know, take them to Taiwan for a weekend or Hawaii, or yeah, it happens.
He's 50 years old. Proposed to me with a diamond ring in a restaurant. Nothing special, just like crazy. I mean, I don't understand how could he think that I might accept his, like, but anyway.
What did you say when he showed you the ring?
I was shocked. I mean, of course, we all, like, you know, you always talk to them, yeah, we're getting married tomorrow. Yeah, of course, I want to have 6 children with you. But, you know, but there is a big difference between coming with a ring and, like, that was pretty shocking. Yeah. Of course, I took the ring.
I had a couple of, a few $1,000s, about $4,000, $5,000 once stuck in my handbag to go and buy myself something nice. That's all, but I have had friends that have had silver, like diamond necklaces, diamond rings, Gucci watches. I had a Cartier watch that's been bought for my birthday, but my birthday's not yet. He's going to send it to me.
If you're stringing them along for a certain period of time, they think, you know, well, I've taken you to Chanel and I've bought you all these clothes and still I'm getting no result. Obviously, you're going to have a fight on your hands at some point.
Our inquiries reveal that in the last 3 years, several hostesses have been seriously sexually assaulted by customers. The victims haven't gone to the police as they were working illegally. We have learned of 2 separate incidents where a hostess was drugged, filmed, and probably molested. This year, an infatuated customer threatened to kill a hostess at Club Cadeau after she rejected his advances. Another 2 hostesses at this club were sexually attacked.
I was living with a girl and she had problems with her customer. She was working at Cadeau at the time. She was in a car with him and he jumped on her and tried to pull her clothes off and kiss her and things. She had to fight with him to get out of the car and run away from the car. The second girl, he locked the door on her. She was another Cadeau hostess. He locked all of the doors so she couldn't get out and he attacked her. I don't know the full story and I only know because the first girl he attacked told me about that incident.
One of the worst incidents involved 2 young New Zealand hostesses.
2 girls were kidnapped, told they'd been taken to the train station and were taken to an apartment where they were locked up for 2 weeks. There was a lot of business dealings going on, you know, and yeah, they were raped for 2 weeks and then they were going to be transported to another country. One girl overheard that she was going to be killed the next day, so she jumped out the window. Yeah.
Jumped out of the window?
Yeah.
How high was it?
3 floors.
The hostess who jumped broke her ankle but fled. She stopped a taxi and went straight to the New Zealand embassy. The girl who was left behind was rescued, and both were flown home to safety. The only other Western girl who has definitely vanished in recent years is Canadian Tiffany Fordham. Like Lucie, she was blonde with striking blue eyes. Her disappearance 3 years ago is just as baffling. Tiffany worked first as a hostess and then a dancer. She was last seen alive in the early hours of the morning in a Roppongi club. Three months have passed since the Blackman family began their search. It's becoming increasingly evident that somewhere in this vast, supposedly safe city are customers of hostess clubs dangerously addicted to Western girls. The police will say nothing about their progress, so Sophie is determined to keep the pressure on them by publicizing the case until she knows Lucie's fate.
I'm not really willing to go back home and live a normal life. What's the point of having a job and a car and, you know, friends back home and this cushy little lifestyle if it's all just a big lie? Nothing else is relevant.
But if it takes years, you are going to risk destroying your whole life and your own career.
No, because my life's destroyed anyway, at the moment. And it's certainly destroyed if I don't get Lucie back. So I'll just destruct another part of it in the hope of rebuilding this part, which is much more important.
Have you sort of come to terms with the fact that she might be dead?
No, of course not. And even if I had thought that, you never come to terms with that. Even if someone does die, you still never come to terms with that, even until the day you die.
Miss Lucie Blackman, my sister, abducted here 2 months ago today. Take photos.
Mid-September. Tim is back for his third visit. Mentally, he's preparing himself for never knowing what has happened to Lucie.
Oh, you fat Dad.
Where's Lucie then?
Oh, I forgot her. I think
I don't know what other members of the family wish to do, but I don't intend to build a shrine out here for her. I don't intend to, have some huge memorial and fund and this sort of stuff. I think I just have to let her go in my mind.
Do you really believe you could let it go?
Well, I think there'll always be a corner of one's heart which is Lucie, because I've known her a long time. But she wouldn't want my life to be burdened by her loss.
But Tim is not yet ready to end his search. He keeps publicising the case, keeps trying to trace the mystery customer seen drinking champagne and brandy with his daughter 8 days before she disappeared. But no one seems to know him, or if they know, say nothing. Then on Thursday, October the 12th, Japanese television announced that police have raided the home of a wealthy property tycoon. The owner, Joji Ohara, is arrested on suspicion of drugging and sexually assaulting a Canadian woman 3 years ago. But he is also wanted for questioning about Lucie's disappearance. Tim Blackman receives 200 phone calls from journalists and holds a press conference.
Some astonishing news broke during the night with regard to the police investigation in Tokyo over the Lucie going missing.
Tim is asked about reports that police are digging up Ohara's garden.
The Japanese journalists I've spoken to in Tokyo are really playing that down rather, but then they feel very sensitive about the case and wouldn't really wish to say to me, maybe they're digging up your daughter's body.
Today, 20 properties belonging to Ohara are still being searched, including a seaside apartment where neighbours say he took Western girls. Japanese newspapers report that 5 Western girls have now told police they were raped or sexually molested at this apartment, and that 100 videos showing sexual assaults on women have been seized.
My overwhelming feeling now is one of intense anger. The latest is that it would have transpired that he could have abducted up to 50 girls, some Japanese, but a lot of Western girls, over a period of 5 years. And the prospect of that is simply appalling.
Tim believes that people who knew of these attacks stayed silent, and he fears this culture of secrecy in the hostess world may have cost Lucie her life.
I'm left almost speechless at how uncooperative the bar owners, the people who worked in the bars. We managed to speak to 1 or 2, but the rest of them scuttled away into the dark edges as fast as they possibly could. Not because they didn't know anything, but simply they didn't want to be involved. But you know, the result of all this is that everybody's going to be involved, right from the first girl who was abducted, who didn't shop this guy, is as guilty as anybody else of allowing this man to run riot like a fox amongst chickens, and that is why we've lost Lucie now.